Welcome to another exciting episode of Let's Talk. I'm your host, Jason, with my co-host. And here at Let's Talk, we like to talk about issues that matter to you. We like to come up with practical, workable solutions that way we can have more action and less talk. So today, our topic today is when in-laws become outlaws. You know, leave and cleave. Do we know how to do it?
Yes. When in-laws become outlaws, and who are in-laws? You know, we know them, we love them. In-laws are the people who become a part of our family once we get married. And, you know, in-laws are such wonderful people, right?
Yes.
Because these are the people who would have produced your wonderful spouse. So I say then the first attitude that we ought to have to our in-laws would be an attitude of gratitude, right? Because if we didn't have in-laws, then we wouldn't have those wonderful spouse that we love so much. But of course, as life happens, people are different, personalities, culture, upbringing, just differences come into play, and these sometimes cause challenges. And as we have our conversation tonight about in-laws becoming outlaws, we want you to like, we want you to subscribe. We also want you to give us a call. If you're having any similar experiences, maybe you have a perfect relationship with your in-law. Give us a call at 352-TALK, 352-8255.
Just call us in and share your experience. We'd love to hear from you guys.
Yeah.
You know, Cheryl, you said we have to have an attitude of gratitude towards the in-laws. And yes, for the most part, that is true because they did produce the people who we are in love with, who we decided to take on. Sometimes you hear them say, you know, when you marry me, you marry my family too. How do you feel about that statement? What do you think about that?
I think it's a bit, there's a bit of truth to it, because when you marry someone by law, you become family. And I think that's what it means. You marry my family, but it doesn't give your family carte blanche into the relationship, and that's what needs to happen. And I think too, because as I was thinking about the topic, I think about how usually in the beginning everything is fine, right? In the beginning everything is fine. You have a wonderful relationship, and I know that I have grown children, and when they're dating, my son is married, he has a wife. Usually when you're dating, everybody sucks up to the mother-in-law. Everybody's nice to the mother-in-law because you want to make sure that you get in.
That's right.
And after you're in, mother-in-law still expects you to suck up. Mother-in-law still expects you to agree. You're supposed to be in an agreement, and there should be no changes. But of course, now the spouse feels it's time to be me. I have my spouse, so
I didn't get the prize.
let me be me. And sometimes, you know what, and that makes you fully responsible then for the relationship. You're partially responsible because by then you didn't set any boundaries. You allowed the mother-in-law to say what they wanted, do what they wanted, sometimes even get in on important conversations that you're having with each other. And so this person feels like now this should continue even after the marriage. And you put your foot down and hell breaks loose, because who do you think you are?
Yeah, you created a monster. You didn't set your boundaries, like Cheryl said. You played as you put up this front, you know, that's because you won't get in. Get in where you fit in, right? Now you have to live with the consequences. But I don't really think, because the mother-in-law, and I notice you keep saying mother-in-law, we don't want to bring this down to genders, right? But the fact remains that mothers tend to want to hold on to their children. For the most part, fathers prepare them to leave or prepare their children to go out into the world and get their own. Mothers tend to always want to be the mother, to always want to protect. And that could easily translate into meddling. Because the mother, she's older, she feels that she knows better. She grew up with children, and hey, I know more than you. I bring you into this world. I show you what is what. So she feel now she could continue to be the mother. She doesn't allow her child to go off and be their own family. Now, I think this is where the problem comes in. The child was already accustomed to the mother being the mother. Here comes the spouse.
Right.
They played nice because they wanted to get in where they could fit in. Now they got to say, okay, time to back off for mommy to back off now. Like I say, we don't want to say targeting mothers, but
yes, just say parent then maybe.
Yeah.
For the in-law.
Right.
Let's say the in-law.
The in-law.
Right.
Now it's time to put that parent in place, the in-law parent in place. So it could come off almost as disrespectful. But whereas that in-law should have already known their place because they're older, they should have known how to pull off and let their child become an adult. You have to let your child, if you did a good enough job, then you should feel comfortable in letting your child go. Now, if you feel like you still gotta be so involved in your child's life, then that's actually an indictment on yourself. You don't want your child to run their own show. Something wrong with that picture there. Parents, it's time for you gotta step off. Get out of these people's business. Stay out of these people's lives. Let them run their own families. Give them room to grow. Make their mistakes. Be there for them to come for advice.
Yes.
But you should stay out of your children's, they're adults now, stay out of their business. And a few people reach out to me. When I mentioned this topic, they say, oh yeah, it's a hot one. And one said, he ain't got no in-laws, he only have outlaws. That's all he got is outlaws. Wow.
He may have helped to create those outlaws. I think sometimes we help to create the outlaws. Like I said, by setting boundaries. If you don't set boundaries, then you're allowing the person. And of course, I agree with what you said, Jason. The in-law should stay in their place. But sometimes, I can't speak for fathers, and I agree with Jason, and I promise not to agree with Jason too much tonight, but sometimes as mothers, we really cling on to our daughters, and sons sometimes, and we feel like we know what's best. And sometimes we put that person in a position. And I think that's a lot of times too where this becomes a problem. If the spouse who's in the middle, he doesn't know how to say mommy, or sometimes he says one thing behind his spouse's back to the in-law. And so that creates a problem. So the spouse is in the middle. He has to put his foot down. And sometimes he's pushed to have to choose between agreeing with his mother or father or agreeing with his wife or her husband. And so that too makes the situation hard. It puts stress on the relationship itself, on the marriage. And sometimes these things lead to separation and divorce.
Sometimes it does. Cheryl, I notice you keep saying he, right? He has to put his mother in place. And I have to agree with you on that because guess what? We do have a lot of mama's boys out there. We do have a lot of mama's boys. He watched mommy fall down and get up with him and struggle. So he wants to protect her because we have, like we had a few shows back, there are a lot of single mother homes out there. So the son grew up being more or less the quote unquote man of the house.
Right.
Mother became accustomed to him being the man of the house, being the provider. So she wants to keep him around, and he wants to protect his mother. So therefore, I see the little dynamic there, the little struggle there. Whereas now he wants to protect his mom and keep him safe, but then he also has his wife over here, which is his main priority. That's his number one priority, not his mommy. His wife is his number one priority, and his mother never taught him that. Because she
wants to be the priority.
Right. She wants to be the priority. Most women want to be the priority. There's nothing wrong with that. They should be the priority to their man, not their son. Not their son. Get it right. Because he has his own woman to be the priority of. So here now he's in a tough spot. But like I said, he was never taught. So now here comes this big fight. The wife wants the attention. The mother's fighting. So he's put in a bad place. Guys, we need y'all to like, subscribe. We need you to call in and 352 255 255. So Michael always fall asleep just like me. So we have a comment. Go ahead, Mr. Producer.
We have to always know, even though we live and cleave, we marry the family as well. I love my in-laws. I have learned to deal with them according to knowledge. I just study all, we're good. And my mother-in-law loves me. I honor my mother and father-in-law. They really grown a great stock.
Awesome.
Very good.
Awesome. So like she got some good in-laws. She ain't know nothing but this outlaw thing we talking about.
Yes, but sometimes too, it takes a lot of maturity.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of maturity, and sometimes we go into even, and I think from both sides too. Sometimes the in-law wants to change the spouse into whatever they want that person to be, and sometimes the spouses expect the in-laws to make changes, and so it takes a lot of maturity where we have to accept people for who they are going into the relationship. But we'll come back with lots of more talk. But for now, we'll take a commercial break. So we'll see you right back.
I'm Flynn Doxson from Nose Witness News, reporting live from Sniper Paintball City. We're here with the manager, and he's going to tell us a little about what they have to offer.
Daddy, I got this at Sniper Paintball. We have paintball, cornhole, mini golf, batting cage.
Strike!
That's not a strike.
So come on down every Saturday and Sunday to Sniper Paintball City, located next to Crosstown, where you and the family can have a great time.
See you at Sniper.
So welcome back to Let's Talk. Today our topic is when in-laws become outlaws, learning how to leave and cleave. Now, this was a vexing, this is a very hot topic. I spoke to a few people on it and they had some stories to share. And I hang with guys, so of course I can hear the guy's side. Sure, I'll probably add a little dynamic there after I've added my story, finished my stories, right? But on few stories, a guy I know was talking about how he actually lost his wife because his wife did not know how to leave her mother's house alone. Every time he comes home, he's looking for his wife, she by the mommy. Every time he called for her, she going by her mommy, she doing something for mommy, she doing something. It's like the woman, his wife, never knew how to let go. And it became a problem. And the mother never put her daughter in a place like say, hey, go home to, in fact, it was not just the mother, it was the mother and father. I need to correct myself. Her parents didn't put their daughter in a place like to say, hey, you're married now, go home to your husband, you got wifely duties. They encouraged her to come home. It was like they didn't want to let their daughter go. And then it was another one, a close friend of mine, his in-law, his wife's mother, would come in the house unannounced when she feel. And she would say, this is my daughter's house. I can do what I want to. I come in here when I'm ready. Not do what I wanted, but she came she came and went as she wanted because it's a mother house. And another one, the mother again. Sorry to hit her.
All of your stories, Jason, is just the wives?
The wives. The fella said the woman just don't know how to leave the mommy house. The mommy just don't send her home. Every time you're looking for her, she's there. It's like they just comfortable with mommy. They just want to continue, just stay up in the mommy's house. Yes.
But I agree with you, but clearly there were no boundaries set. And I think, like we said before in a past show, that when marriage counseling is done, there ought to be a day of family counseling where everybody is made to understand that after the wedding, this is what is established. A new family has been established, and some boundaries have to be set. Clearly, the daughter didn't set any boundaries. I don't know what the relationship is in those stories that the husband had with those families, because I wanted to know, does he go over as well? Does he spend time with the in-laws, or maybe he became resentful where he stopped going over because his wife spent so much time over there?
That's it.
So maybe there are other dynamics there that may not be evident here, but clearly boundaries were not set. We have to set boundaries. People have to know their place. The wife clearly didn't know her place in that situation, that she is supposed to leave and find her own space in her own home.
You know, I heard one woman say one time, oh, the husbands were told to leave and cleave, not the wives.
Everybody, you're forming your own family, so you're both supposed to leave and cleave.
And I would like to speak to that. Right, you're correct, but I would like this. The reason why the instructions was given to the men is because the women automatically left.
Exactly.
The women didn't have a choice. So wherever the husband went, the wives went.
Yeah.
So they had to say that to the sons because the sons were taking the daughters from the homes. It was no question. The daughters automatically left, and a lot of times the daughters would not even see their families anymore. Back in we talk about when this command was given, leave and cleave, because the husbands were living in different villages. He would take her. She would go. She would have to actually say goodbye because she left.
Yes.
That was a given. So it's only up until now, this recent history, where women, this is not a complete, where women have so much more freedom. But freedoms come with some responsibilities. Not because you have these freedoms should you take advantage of it. Ladies, you have to understand that you do have responsibilities. I'm speaking now from my stories, but I told. You have responsibilities to your husbands first. Not your mommy, not your daddy. Your husbands first. Just like I always said, when the sons, when you alluded to, the son didn't know how to leave his mommy. And I said that the son, that his wife came first. Now I'm speaking to the women. Women, your husband is first. Your family is first. Before you even pick up the phone to call mommy to ask her advice, your husband's advice is first. And your husband's word is born. His word is born. Not your mommy, not your daddy. Your husband's word is born because that's your family. You all are building your family. And try not to. You could bring some traditions over from your family, from your old family, but you and your husband or your husband and your wife, whatever, your dynamic, you all are now creating your own family. Separate from what you all came from. You're building new traditions because you got two different dynamic backgrounds now, two different cultures coming together to create your own. Take the good from each family and build your own. Leave the in-laws out, especially if you know they're not encouraging you to get together. If you see that your in-laws or your parents are more or less driving a wedge between you and your husband or you and your wife, it's time to let your parents be. Let them go deal with their own business. Let them go be their own misery. Let your mother and father torment themselves. Don't bring their mess into your family.
But you know, I find too that in-laws take their cues from their child.
Yes.
So if their child is not respectful of the spouse, they take on that same attitude.
Yes.
Whatever their child's attitude is towards the spouse, and that is so important to make sure that you remain respectful, you remain agreeable and supportive to your spouse in front of your parent.
Yes.
You should never disagree or even have arguments in front of your parent with your spouse because it will cause them to disrespect.
Yes.
But what I find also too is that we do not have a conversation or talk about these things until they become a problem. Spouses, you don't talk about these things. You have to talk about these things before. Establish some rules, put some things in place before it becomes a problem. And when it becomes a problem, like Jason said, your allegiance is to your spouse. There is no way on the God's green earth that you're supposed to agree with a parent in front of your spouse. You all could do whatever you want to do behind closed doors. You and your spouse could disagree, but when you come out in front of anybody, it could be your children. You have to have a united front.
Yes.
That marriage is the institution that should stand up against everything. And you know, they're great. There's some in-laws that are great, but there's some in-laws who sadly don't mean the marriage is any good. They don't really care.
Yes.
As long as they can maintain a good relationship with their child, they don't care if the child has a marriage, and that is selfish. But sadly, you do have too many parents who feel that way.
And a lot of parents as well, because they were in control for so long, they don't want to relinquish that control. They want to stay in charge. I want to continue to manipulate my son and tell him what to do because that's a man. I can take charge of him. I want to continue taking control over my daughter because I feel I know what's best for her. She's not a woman. She's not her own person. She needs to be protected. The guy who she's with, I do not approve of. So therefore I can meddle and I can do what I got to do to take charge. So we have a caller. Welcome to Let's Talk. Caller, you're live.
Yeah, but I had that situation before. Me and my wife on a round, and she gone. Tell her brother there. I downtown minding my business. They won't come fight me.
Ooh.
What you do with things like this, man?
Wow. Cheryl, you got to say that. Wait, so your spouse saying, she ain't mean no harm, she ain't mean no good. If she got to go get her brothers to come get you, that's love you, show you love. Anyway, only teasing you. Yeah, what you got to say?
Well, clearly that relationship, there's some respect. There's some respect missing. Clearly, there's definitely some work. I think there are other problems here. This problem didn't happen overnight, where she gets her brother to come. Clearly, there's a level of disrespect. Clearly, the brother has no respect for him as a spouse, and I think too, how you talk about when you talk about your spouse to your family, when your spouse is not there, that determines how they treat your spouse. Even in front of you, behind you, it doesn't matter. So we really have to be careful. And that's why things like this happen. When you help your family to just respect your spouse.
Yeah, and the fact is, we only can remember the bad. Because most of the time we speak about the bad.
Yeah.
We talk, we go complaining about our spouses to our brothers, our sisters, our mothers,
parents.
fathers, our parents. We go complaining, but we never go back and say all the good things they do.
Exactly.
So, and our parents and spouses, our parents and brothers and sisters, our siblings, they want to protect us. So therefore, they're going to take our side and they're going to come to our rescue. So you go in there.
They don't make up. You already make up, but they don't make up.
Exactly. So you need to keep your business to yourself.
Absolutely.
Keep everybody out of that. So we have a comment. Go ahead, Mr. Producer.
Comment said, I remember that stops by her parents' house after work and leaves at 10 at night. Now they're not together.
Yes, I can't see that staying together. That's the height of disrespect.
Yeah.
Your home is your first priority, not the home that you left. You left that home. That's second down. That's secondary down the list. Your home, your spouse. No spouse would sit by and tolerate that for no long periods of time. Your spouse needs you at home.
Yeah.
How do you feel? I don't understand. That's selfishness now. You just moving on your own. No respect for your spouse.
When do you cook and clean? When do you cook and take care of your husband or your wife?
Right.
When do you clean? When do you spend quality time? When do you have date night if you're hanging out by your mom's house or your dad's house all the time?
Yes.
And I find that they're both wrong. The in-laws are wrong too for encouraging it, because at what point are you going to tell your daughter, go home, go cook for your husband?
Exactly.
Or go home and take care of your home?
Exactly.
But sadly we're selfish people.
And then the thing is, I remember you said, talk about it before it comes a problem. What if you're assuming there won't be any problem? What if you don't know it's a problem? How do you even have that conversation if you don't see it?
The thing is, if you're spending time together, then there is no problem.
Right.
But if time is missing, then you have to find out why is time missing? Where is the other person? And so when you see a trend start happening, it's time to say, baby, we need to talk about this.
And so how do you have that conversation? How do you begin that conversation?
How do you begin?
Yeah.
You identify what the issue is, wherever you want to do it, whether you want to go out and have dinner and talk about it or stay home and chill and talk about it. But you identify what the issue is and say from your heart what it is that is affecting you and how it's making you feel. And I think a lot of times we wait until we're angry and we say it in a derogatory way. We say it when the person is already defensive and is not willing to accept anything. When somebody's angry, they can't accept truth without being defensive.
Yeah.
So we have to find a time when the person is not angry and share our heart. And I think any conversations that starts by saying, this is how I feel when you do that, I think the person will be a little more open to accepting it than saying, you this, you this, you that, you that. You point it inward. This makes me feel this way.
Effective communication.
Exactly. And that needs to happen. But sadly, any relationship that does not include spending time together is definitely going to fail.
Most definitely.
Definitely.
And sadly, parents don't see this. They don't get this. Maybe because of the way we grew up. I don't know. But the spouse, I can't say this enough. Your first priority is to your home. Your home. Because your parents may never step up and say, hey, go home. And at the end of the day, you end up back in your parents' house because you neglected your own home.
Yeah.
And how would you feel after? Do you feel good to go back to your parents' house? You're supposed to be moving forward. supposed to be maturing, growing old together, building something together, not going backwards. You're not a child. When I was a child, I behaved as a child. But when I became an adult, I put away childish things. Leaving your parents' house is putting away childish things. Stop being a child.
But let's look at it though this way, okay? Just like in the scenario that you brought up, Jason. So the wife is going and spending a lot of time by her mom's house. The husband has a problem with it. You're talking to your wife and nothing is happening. At what point are you going to have a conversation with the in-laws?
And
Why can't you have that conversation with the in-laws? They're your family members. You could go and meet with the in-law, sit down and have a conversation and say, why not?
After I've spoken to my wife
Mhm.
and say, hey, baby, you're spending too much time at home, and I'm missing you, and I need you home.
Mhm.
She said, okay, I can try. But then she falls right back into that same situation, keep going back because that's familiar. She's comfortable.
Mhm.
She's being catered to. They're treating her, and she likes that treatment. But it's becoming a problem now. So you're saying that I should sit down and have a conversation with the parents. and say,
Because
"Hey,
at this
listen."
point, your wife is not the only person offending you.
Yes, that's
Your
correct.
in-laws are also offending you.
Correct.
And it's time to have a respectful conversation with your in-laws as well.
I agree.
Yes, because that's the only way I think that's going to, if you want the marriage, I think you need to find a way to fight for the marriage.
I definitely agree. So we have a call coming. Welcome to Let's Talk, caller. You are live. Go ahead, caller. You're live. Yeah, man.
I listened to yours and yours say the wife go to the parents goes to 10 o'clock.
Yes, the commenter did say that the wife was still there until 10 o'clock.
Listen, I give the mother of that wife wrong.
Yes.
Yeah.
The mother is totally wrong. She's supposed to set an example,
Yes.
but she's not setting an example for her daughter. So she wants her daughter back home,
Yes.
in other words. Because if she didn't want her daughter back home, she would say, listen, you don't listen no more. On that Wednesday, you say you go on with that man. All right?
Mhm.
She shouldn't even let her daughter come back there talking about talking or whatever, getting fix or getting this or whatever. No, the
Right.
mother around. I don't give the husband wife wrong. I give the mother around. She's the oldest.
Right.
You
Right.
agree?
Correct. sir.
She supposed to set an example. So she's wrong. And I think that mother probably didn't want her daughter back.
That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking, caller.
Because if she didn't want her back, she said to go to her husband.
That's right.
Why she said go to your husband like that? She can say that to herself. She ain't coming back there no more.
Yeah.
Because mommy tell me go to my husband like this home.
Yes.
And then the fella, the night you want to 10 o'clock, I didn't come bring that to her back in my house.
Caller, I was just about to ask you, how would you have handled that if that was you?
Oh, I told you then, I'm out and see her close to the door. Yeah, you see her close, because when she come, okay, then she come home. She come home, watch it. She come home 10 o'clock.
Mhm.
What time they get to spend on my wife?
That's right.
12 o'clock, she sleeping.
That's right.
2 hours?
That's
You
right.
spend all that. No, man, no, you're going to stay back with your mommy, then we're going to find a new wife.
Oh, yeah. That's
You
the-
did that, I'm going before I get in trouble.
All right, caller, thanks for calling. Appreciate you, caller. Caller says he taking the clothes bought by mommy, and he's going to go get a new wife. Plenty of them out there. That's what he said.
Yeah, you don't have to repeat that last part. We're so happy about it too.
But seriously, that's disrespectful. You coming home 10 o'clock. And so that means you coming home to give your husband what's left.
Mhm.
You know, you're giving him what's left. You ain't giving him the best of
Yeah.
you. After you've then talked out and exhausted yourself because you used to work all day. We then spend most of our time at work.
Mhm.
So the time that you get off, a couple hours you have left, you're going to give it back to your mommy and daddy rather than to this man who out there slaving or your husband who you went before God for.
Yeah.
What you giving him is what you have left. And like the caller said, you coming home now at 10 o'clock, what you gonna do? You don't even want bed and go to sleep now.
Mhm.
You're leaving the room open for the enemy.
Yeah.
And parents, like the caller said, the mommy must be want her daughter back home. And we have some parents like that, you know, they weren't happy for to see their children get married. They pretended that they were. Because if you were happy and you want that marriage to succeed, why wouldn't you encourage your child to do what's right? Why wouldn't a mother encourage her son to put his wife first? and treat her like the queen that she should be. Even if she didn't experience it, she should want her daughter-in-law to experience that, to see how good she raised her son. She raised a king to know how to treat a woman like a queen. That's what so she should encourage her son to treat this woman this way. She should encourage her daughter to be this queen for her husband. So she should in no way encourage her daughter to be hanging out this house till 9, 10 o'clock at night. Man, you've been to work from 8 till 5. What time you can spend with your husband? Your husband need to eat. He want his foot rubbed. He want to talk to you. He want to feel your softness. Mothers and fathers, encourage your children to do what's right. Even if your marriage mightn't be to that point, show them which way it should be. Tell them where you all fall down so they don't fall down like how you all do.
I think too sometimes, well, I have a thought, but okay, I was going to say, I think sometimes when the relationship is not so good between the parent and one of the spouse, it causes issues like that.
Mm-hmm.
So whose responsibility do you think it is to make sure that there is a good relationship to start and maintain a good relationship?
Well, that would fall on the child.
Which one?
So on me. Say it's my mother we're dealing with, my mother and my wife. It would fall on me to be their mediator, to try to bring them two together. Now, it may not work, but it starts with me. And I'd have to be that common place because I'm the one in common. And I'll have to show respect to my wife, to my mother. Then I have to show respect to my mother, to my wife.
Right.
So that they can see that I'm both respecting them, both supporting them, and hopefully they would take my cue and go from there. Now, if it doesn't work, then we just have to keep them apart.
Yeah, because in that scenario, clearly there's not a good relationship between the spouse and the mother. Because if you had a good relationship with that man and respected that man, there's no way you keep your daughter till 10 o'clock in the night when you know she has to go and take care of her husband.
She may just be selfish.
Well, that's true too.
But like Cheryl said, we have to take a commercial break and we'll be right back.
Where you going, mate?
To go buy these tickets for the party tonight.
Why this boy so dumb?
Tickets242.com.
You know how hard it is?
They sell tickets for parties, concerts, plays, sporting events, everything.
You know how expensive bus is?
Well, if you just buy the tickets online, they could just send you it in the email. Then you could just print it off.
You know how strong mosquitoes is?
Or you could go to the box office downtown at the Genesis Street Gear.
You ain't scared of Jones's Day.
Well, Jason shared a lot about scenarios including, females, and I guess rightfully so because Jason has a lot of male friends who would share. But I would be remiss if I didn't share one or two stories. So I have female friends who have issues with mama's boys. And mama's boys, we know these are men who, they are loyal to mommy, even after. It's like they cannot take a woman's side against their mother's side. And sometimes this is to the detriment of the relationship. And I've heard countless stories. I don't want to be too specific, in sharing other people's experiences. But I've had friends who would say that it's hard for their husbands to take their side against their mother's side. And this could be about anything. It could be about child rearing. It could be just about keeping the house. It's sometimes simple things about how the wife dresses. And this becomes an issue with the mother. And the son, the spouse, has a problem with standing up to his mother and in support of his wife. Are you familiar with any of these stories, Jason?
I'm not familiar, but I didn't say they don't happen. I'm not familiar with it. I might have heard it around somewhere, but that one, that seems to be that would be evident during the dating stage, you don't think? Where the mother, where you can actually see that this guy isn't he's really attached to his mother, and he's taking her side. He's taking his mother's side over her side. So you don't think she would have seen that before She
But
married him.
sadly, one of the problems as women is that we believe that we can change.
Oh,
We can
yeah.
change things.
Here we go.
We believe that we can change things, and I think even so, it's not looked at where that is a detriment to the relationship. Most women don't see it as that because they feel like, okay, eventually he'll come around or she'll come around, and it won't affect. And I think in a lot of cases too, I may sound a little sexist by saying this, but women we could carry a lot more than men can. I think we can carry a relationship and where there's an issue with the in-law, and we can still function. Where it will maybe be a little more difficult for the guy to function in a situation like that. But these things do occur, and it's a little harder because when I strongly believe that when the situation is where the husband is in the middle, it becomes a little more aggressive. Things are a little more aggressive when it's two women against each other, and the male spouse is in the middle.
Yeah, because you all women always competing with each other. And always a competition between y'all. The mommy competing with the daughter competing with the mommy to see who can get the son's affection. And he's in the middle, caught in the middle there, trying to be the peacemaker because he loves his mommy, he don't want to disrespect her. He loves his wife, he don't want to disrespect her. So therefore now I'm caught in the mix. And now I don't know what to do, who I can take, side I can take. But I alluded to it already. And the son's loyalty should be to his wife first. Should be to his wife first. And there's no getting around it. There's no getting around it. But these monsters, mothers-in-laws, not monsters-in-law, these monsters-in-laws that we have, because it's like they just don't want to relinquish this power they had, They had controls over their sons' lives. And they say they don't need a man. And you know why they say they don't need a man? Because they got their son, right? So they have the benefit of a man without actually having a man. So therefore, I'm trying to break it down for my little simple mind. I'm trying to rationalize it to see why the mothers-in-law are that way.
Well, let me just say, sometimes too, the couple is at fault sometimes. You know why? Because there is a situation. There are many situations where the same in-laws that we talk about, the same in-laws have to babysit, have to watch children. They have to do all of that. So you include them in your life. You want them in your life, and more or less. So when they have the children for 8 hours a day or whatever, whether it's in the summer or during school days, they have the children. You come for advice. You complain about the spouse, and so sometimes we pull them into the relationship, maybe unknowingly. So they feel like now they're in the relationship. So it's almost disrespectful if when a situation comes up and they want to be a part of it, that all of a sudden now they're not to be included. So sometimes I think spouses need to take responsibility for how they include the in-laws into the relationship.
Yeah, but that's like an extended family, and that's how they need to be kept. An extended family, not a part of the family.
Yeah.
Mother-in-laws are extended families. They're not a part of the family. So when my children get married, my family, my household hasn't grown. I've now let my daughter or my son go. My new son-in-law has not become my son. He's just a son-in-law. He and my daughter now has to go over and create their own space. They have to now go and create their own lives. And I cannot impose my will or my way of doing things upon them. I have to let them be their own. Now, I think it was you who mentioned it. When you come to me for finances, that also comes with advice.
Definitely. I tell my children that, and I think that's the problem too. If you go into your family to get money, and then you don't want them to be a part of your family, then how does that work?
Yeah. You ain't come and get my
you
money.
want to be independent, be independent.
So we have a caller. Caller, thank you for calling. Let's talk. You're live. What you got to say, caller?
I gotta say, I'm enjoying the show, sharing vision. I think, PK, I think one of the things that's underestimated too is when you do marriage prep or premarital counseling, this whole idea of in-laws and boundaries, family boundaries, like I said earlier, not enough premium is placed on it. And sometimes it requires having that conversation before marriage.
Yeah.
I think Jason is the nail on the head to talk about that. Sometimes a lot of single mothers who were dependent on their child for not just financial support, but even emotional support. And now that's a change. And so what you find happening now, marriage is supposed to be a multiplication of families. The family gets bigger, but when it's unhealthy, it just breaks up families, it divides, and
Yes.
it makes it smaller. So I think going into the marriage, I think a lot more emphasis has to be placed on those in-law relationships.
Yeah.
It's not just a matter of leave and please, but what leave and please looks like. And I
Yes.
think that there has to be some flesh to that, some practicality to that, so that everybody can be comfortable, you know?
Most definitely. So PK, tell me, are there any red flags to look out for? Let's say I am doing marriage counseling. How do you look for red flags? How do you spot this, if this will be some kind of problem?
Well, like you said earlier, what you said, like you get signs prior to. How the husband often knows when the mommy isn't feeling the fiance. You know, we dismiss it, she being petty or being immature or whatever. But some days, and then sometimes some women see it, and, you know, they see it, but they think, okay, it's cute to date, but to marry that, you know, that's a toxic situation. It's cute dating that because, you know, but to hear someone that perceived is uncomfortable with you or don't like you, but you see it a lot. You see it a lot in how the son spends money on the mother, what access they have, the parents have to, because it's like that with dad too, with daughters. So it's what access they give them into their personal life, their finances, their decision making, all of those things, and then that's not, like you said, Cheryl, sometimes the parents and in-laws hold the babysitters they hostage unless they get what they want, they do not, unless they're not the babysitter. And so sometimes it calls for some kind of negotiation, but the red flags are there with money and emotional support and things like that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, you got anything? You want to ask any questions, Cheryl? 'Cause I see.
Pastor Carl, then do you do family counseling maybe as a part of marriage counseling before the wedding? Do you do?
I do. Yeah, I do. And most pastors, I say most pastors should do a detailed.
Where you bring in the in-laws, the prospective in-laws in?
If it is an issue, if there's an issue, you recommend that they sit down, or maybe if it is a serious issue, everybody has to be honest in the marriage prep. And if there is an issue where you get to the segment where you talk in detail about the family dynamic, in-laws, and family planning. If there is an issue, then sometimes it calls for some intervention or some mediation or some understanding. And it's best to do it then, you see? Because chances are after marriage, we won't get in-laws to sit down in front of anyone.
Absolutely. But then I was thinking too that even before it becomes an issue, that expectations need to be set up. So I think that's something that needs to happen. That, you know, they come in just to set expectations.
But most people are, you know, the situation is most people are happy.
That's true. Yeah, parents to be happy, yes.
Most parents are happy.
That's true.
But when there is an issue, and like I said, there's the flags in it. No one, monsters, mothers-in-law, fathers-in-law, they don't just turn after the wedding.
You're right. Absolutely right.
You see it, and if you currently is courageous enough to
confront it,
to deal with it prior to.
Yeah.
And you know, that's the best way to go. In my opinion.
Now, PK, I can ask you this and I can let you go. If you don't want to answer, don't answer. But have you ever seen it on the horizon and you pulled one of the spouses to the side or the future spouse to the side and say, hey, I can see where you're heading. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Now, how much?
Yeah.
Now, how?
Unfortunately, sometimes, and this may be another topic for another day. Sometimes when people in the marriage prep, most people just come for a rubber stamp.
Yes.
When it's really supposed to be a preparation where you live within the boundaries that you're going to live in once you're married, to see how that works. to make a necessary adjustment. That's why, like 2 weeks before the marriage, they know the thing out at that point.
No.
Start once you really get serious.
Yes.
And what happens is sometimes you see these red flags, men are, but they're too vested in.
Yes.
The force is already down the plate.
Yes.
The draft.
Already there now.
That's
And,
right.
you know, and now,
Get it.
so yeah.
Well, PK, thank you so much. You enriched this conversation many
Yes.
times over. So
Yes.
thank you so much and call anytime.
Yes.
Thank you, brother. I love the show. You're doing a great job. Keep it up.
Thank
Thank
PK.
you. Okay.
So I think we have a comment from Mr. Producer.
Yes, I do. Comment here says, I have heard of situations where the mother-in-law is angry when a son gets married because no one ever married her. They are jealous. They are jealous of the daughter-in-law.
Yes, I can see that happening.
We have another one. Mothers-in-laws just feel like the portion they was getting is gonna get cut down because he now has a wife he has to support.
Yes.
Clearly. Well, that's it. Okay. Well, definitely. To be human, imagine this, and I'm not saying that this happens, but you grow your good son up, you put him through college, and you think that after college he was going to work a couple of years, and you were going to benefit from that. 2 years out of college, he gets married, and so now someone else is benefiting. And this might sound simple or silly, but it is true. Especially if you're a single parent and you work 2 jobs to put him through college, because sometimes we see our children as an investment. Some people see them as their pension plan. So you expect that this child is going to be able to assist you. And this is genuine assistance. And so this doesn't happen. He gets a wife, and God forbid, she's not a family person.
Right.
And so she does not care for you.
So she took him out.
So she takes him.
And keeps him away.
And of course, that's no excuse. You still have to respect that. But this is the reality in which some people have to live.
I don't mind me laughing. It wasn't funny. I was laughing at the whole situation, how the person's mindset is. You know, just actually think that your child, you invest in, like your child is a business, and now I'm looking for a return on this business. No, man. That ain't how life is. God lend these children to us for a season. We do our best to invest in them, to send them out into the world so they can go ahead and reproduce more of themselves. That's how this was, not an investment to help. Would you say a retirement plan?
Yeah.
No, man. But you're so right. That's exactly how some of them look and feel. And that is why we have some of this contention in these marriages, because the mothers-in-law, I keep saying mothers-in-law, but
I don't know
we
why.
understand why. We
We
understand why. But the mothers-in-laws, they feel that they're being slighted. They're being, like you said, they made this investment. I'm looking for a return. I'm not getting pulled. Somebody else capitalizing on my hard work. No, man, that ain't how this thing go. And PK made a valid point. Not just finances, emotional, mental support.
Yeah.
Because now they're confidant, the person who they used to confide in, the person who they used to be socializing with. Now they don't have that as much access. So they build up a little resentment against the spouse.
Especially single parents who
Yes.
depend on their children. And when your children become adults, then you depend on them. For company.
And not just single parents, no, because you got some married people whose marriages are hell. And their children were their joy. So now the joy what was in the house is now being taken out. So now, hold on now. You just take my peace. My little social but anyway, my social
life,
social life out. You just took that away. I gotta do what I gotta do to get it back. So they would encourage their daughters or their sons to be up by them till 10 o'clock in the night. I mean, that's just total disrespect. Now I don't understand how any God-fearing parent would allow that to happen. To encourage that kind of foolishness. 10 o'clock, that's a disaster. They're looking for this divorce. They're looking for that marriage to fail. And the parent might be looking for that to happen so they can get their child back.
But barring trying to kill the person, I think it's still the onus is upon the people who are in the marriage to make it work.
Yes.
I think once you're a team and the people on the outside of the marriage sees that you're a team, they have no other choice but to relent at the end of the day. Because I've seen bad in-laws who had to give up, who had to back off because they saw that the spouses, they were going to be a team.
You have the child, not the in-law, not the spouse, the child, the biological child has to be the one to set the boundaries. To put them in place.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
what happens if the biological child doesn't see it as such a problem?
Well, and that's where it becomes a problem, because if the biological child doesn't see a problem and his spouse is being disrespected, but at some point, well, if you're like me, I'm going to train people how to treat me. So respectfully, you have to determine how people treat you. You have to set your own family, like I said, put boundaries in place. Number one. Number two, I'll spend less time with unsupportive in-laws.
Yeah.
Because they could become toxic and just dig that hole deeper in the relationship. And set up your own family space. Set up your family time when you are going to spend time together as a family outside of in-laws or any other interference. Okay, and we're going to continue this conversation, but we will take a very short commercial break and we'll be right back.
You know, most Bahamians know people who live in these shanty towns. Like you said, either the babysitter, the hairdresser, the carpenter, the plumber, the sweetheart.
No, not the sweetheart. Oh, Lord.
Everything, right? There's one-stop shop.
What's going on? Every Tuesday at 8 p.m. starting February 28th on the Superior Talk Bahamas YouTube channel.
So welcome back. And we're talking about in-laws becoming outlaws. Spouses learning how or needing to leave and cleave. This is a very serious conversation. I mean, we may make a little joke here and there, but it's serious because a lot of us are going through this. A lot of people speaking about their experiences with their in-laws, meddling, not encouraging their children to build their own homes, rather than keeping them, encouraging them to come back to their home. Mm-hmm. And me as a father, I prepare my children to leave. I have never prepared or never even had it in my mind to say, keep my children there once they're born and they grow up, they stay around me. I'm, trying to add pieces onto the house for them to come stay and let them bring their family. No. You get your family and go that way. You all build your own. I'm here for advice, maybe even for a little bit of financial leaning on if you need it. But my money coming with some of my advice. I'm telling you, it's not for free. It ain't for free. They want my money, you can listen to what I got to say. I can never lead you wrong. But yeah, so barring having a conversation with your spouse saying, hey, you're spending too much time with your family. Mm-hmm. What can somebody do? What is there any other practical step other than trying to appeal to their sense?
Well, I'd say, like I said, set boundaries, establish your own family space. But I think also respect people for who they are. And that should go both ways. The spouse should be respected by the in-law should respect the spouse for who they are. And I think also you must be able to I think stay away from certain topics when it comes to in-laws. Mm-hmm. Stay away from certain topics, and for God's sake, try not to take things personally. I think a lot of times too, when people talk, especially wives, if the in-law is talking, it could be talking about something about how you keep a house. How you cook for someone. Don't take it personally. Something I think if a dog barks, you don't get mad, right? Because you expect a dog to bark. So when things that are predictable happens, don't have an emotional response to it. And I think those things can be helpful. Try not to take things personally when you're dealing with other people.
Grow some skin. Get some thick skin.
Yeah, I think so. But I think we have a text.
Go ahead, Mr. Producer.
Yeah, I'm going to say this the way that it was intended to be said.
Mm-hmm.
The Bible says, leave and cleave. Mm-hmm. They want to know what their son eating, what time they miss. He ain't in your house no more. I got this now.
Right. That's right. She right. I got this. Yeah. Mommy-in-law, father-in-law, get out of these people's business. Yeah, you have an adult child. They're grown, they're on their own. Mm-hmm. Stay out of them people's business. She's feeding him. She ain't gonna kill him. He know why he marry her. He marry her because she doing it right for him. Let him get his things from your wife. And Go ahead.
But at the end of the day, you have these older people who are set in their ways. They're not going to change. So what does the spouse do? What does the younger wife do who wants to keep peace? Because you want to please your husband, and a part of pleasing your husband or your wife is being amicable with their family.
Yes.
So how do you live in that state?
Now that's a little touchy, because if you've already pleaded your case with your spouse and let them know, hey, this is how your mother, your father's making me feel, and they don't want to address it, then it's time for you to address it. Like you said, you teach people how to treat you. I don't know how that would look, but you have to teach them how to treat you. There has to be consequences. There's reaction. To every action, there's a reaction. So therefore, you have to find a way. Communicate. Proper communication. So get your spouse to understand your words. And then if the words ain't work, then it's time to move on to action. I've heard some guys who actually ban their in-laws from coming to their house. They cannot come to their house because
that's what it takes. That's what it takes.
Well, right.
Because your house that's the important thing in the whole scenario. Your home.
That's right. If you got to take those drastic steps, put them in their place.
People have to respect that.
That's right.
But the person in the middle has to set the standard.
Yes.
And you have to see it. Sometimes it's hard, but like Pastor Kyle said, there are red flags, and you'll notice the red flags. And even if it comes to the point where in the beginning you have to say, and sometimes men do shy away from having the tough conversations, and maybe it's because of all the weaknesses that men have that we talked about last week, where you don't like to talk about things that may be a little stressful, that may cause some conflict. So you're getting married. You're paying your mommy light bill, her water bill, her cable bill, her rent, her whatever. When you get married, you can't afford to pay all those bills. When are we going to have a conversation? When I see you sneaking and doing it and our bills ain't getting paid? And all of these things cause issues. I'm just using an extreme scenario, but these things cause issues because you get married and you cannot maintain your mom anymore, but you never had a conversation with your wife to say, well, this is the scenario. Chances are you never spoke to your mom. So sometimes the person in the middle caused the issue.
Yes. But I mean, if you want to put it on the guy, shouldn't the wife
the person in the middle. It doesn't have to be a guy or whatever. And I know
okay. We ain't make it about gender.
My pronouns have been changing as I move through my scenarios, but you get the person in the middle. And it could be male or female, because some females do maintain their
And the situation where I told you where the mother-in-law went into the guy's house, well, it's their house. It was her mom. It was the daughter who's actually helping financially take care of the mother. So the mother had control of the finances. The mother had control of the walk. She just walked in and all because the daughter was had a financial secure. She just felt that the daughter had all the say. So she completely disrespected the guy. So it does go both ways.
Yeah.
And it's up to the child in the middle. And if the child in the middle can't get it, then the spouse who's feeling the brunt have to take whatever action, not whatever action. They just have to make their spouse understand it's either me or them.
Yeah.
It's either me or them. And it just comes down to, that's what it all boils down to. We got to know when to cut off. We have to learn what is most important, because your parents already had their time.
They live their life.
They already lived their life. You building yours now. It's up for you and your spouse to go old together. You can't want to now pay attention to your spouse after your parents then step off the scene. It'd be too late now. You then lose your spouse.
Yeah.
So you have to be now. Put your mommy and your daddy in place. They ain't there.
But sadly, anybody who's made to be put in that position will become resentful. Because if you make me have to choose between me and my spouse, I'm going to resent you after. You might get me, but you're going to get me with some resentment, some backlash. And of course, that's a different show, but that's reality.
Proper communication. If you if you feel resentful or you feel away because I asked you to put me first, when you swore before God to put me first, okay, go home to mommy then. You would feel like that? I can park your clothes up and I can drop them off. If you feel I put you in a position to choose when you already stood before the altar and you already made the choice. You tell God, you tell the witnesses, you tell me, you put me first before your mommy, before your daddy. That's what you tell me. So you're trying to tell me you lying now and you can get mad because I believe you're lying. No, man. No, sir. Go home to mommy then. Home, I can put you out.
Well,
Or I can leave, one of the two.
Oh, is that how we're going to end the show?
No, well, I have to end the show. So go ahead.
Well, we know that there are challenges with in-laws, and we have to wrap up. But just if you're having these challenges, we just want to encourage you to set boundaries. It's not too late. You could be married for 10 years. Have the conversation. Set your boundaries. Talk through the issues. Limit time with unsupportive in-laws. But first, know that you're respectful and you accept people, and you're not being petty and just going off on petty things and reading into everything someone says. But have the conversation, because you're one family, and the best way to make everybody happy is to maintain or keep on being that family.
Yeah, and I want to say this: keep people out of your business. It's okay to share the happy times. Social media loves that. Social media loves it. We put it on social media, so let's keep it just to that. Only share the happy times. The bad times, keep it inside the house between you and your husband or your husband, or y'all keep it between each other. Because when y'all then make up, they only gonna remember the bad things, So if you put your mother-in-law, you keep complaining to your mother and your father about your spouse, they're only gonna hear the complaints about your spouse. They're only gonna see the bad side. Why is this person taking advantage of my child? And so they're gonna build up resentment. So they're gonna cause more toxicity in your family. So keep your troubles, your business to yourself. If you want to share the good times, then fine. Make sure you're sharing more good than bad. Be careful when you go to them for advice. Only go to those who want to see your marriage succeed, because that right there too, they might give you bad advice. So if you know that not in support of your marriage, don't go looking for no advice. I don't care if it's your mommy or daddy, because they ain't got the good advice all the time. So therefore, you want your marriage to succeed. Your marriage comes first. In-laws can sometimes become outlaws. So keep them out your door. Keep them out your home. All right? So this has been another talk. And Let's Talk. You guys, we are glad to have you. So like, subscribe, and join us again next week, 6 o'clock, Tuesdays. Let's talk.
Good night.
Good night.